biohacking, performance, mastery, mindset, holistic health. This is a show about getting better every single day. I'm on a mission, guys, to help over 1 million people get healthy and lose weight. Why? Because when you lose weight and get healthy, you have higher self-esteem. You have more self-confidence. And that person goes out and crushes their goal and starts living the highest version of themselves, and then they have way more impact on the world. All right, what's up, guys? How are you doing? Man, I am super excited for today's show. I got my good friend Steve Vierra. We did an amazing podcast in the past. We did an episode, and I titled the episode. I think it was like the 50 is the new 20, because Steve had just turned 51, Steve, right, at the time?
Correct. 2 years ago.
Just 2 years ago. And he's in better shape than me and the average 21-year-old. And so we were talking about just aging backwards and what it looks like and how he is in phenomenal shape, and his background as a police officer in one of the most dangerous cities in the world and one of the busiest ones and the most understaffed, Oakland. And so we just talked, like, how does he manage all this? And Steve and I were connecting last week, and he's like, hey, we should do a podcast together and go over just some and share ideas and share perspectives, and something that we've been wanting to do for a while. And so here we are doing it. Steve, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. It's good to finally do this after, 2.5 years ago we did that. And then here we are. A lot of growth for both of us, a lot of changes, life changes, and the timing is right. So I think that's what it's all about. Maybe, I kind of just did an intro for you a little bit, but, I think the purpose of this show, just so people are like kind of I want to give them like some context. So the purpose of these shows that we're going to start doing weekly is really to just kind of go over studies, go over things that are going on in our lives, and really just share some ideas and have a discussion around it, and maybe even challenge each other on some of the things, and just see. What I really love about you too is just your breadth of knowledge from, you have obviously much more wisdom and knowledge than I do. And it's funny, I think a lot of the things that like were old school, right? Or things like that they were doing back in the day, like they're still doing now, or like they say it's something new. And you would always tell me, like, Joel, like we've been doing that. That was so-and-so's, that was Mark Metzer's program, or that was this. And so I know, like, that's what I really want to share too, and bring on some of your quote unquote old school knowledge that is now new, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I mean, I started working out bodybuilding in the 90s, and after seeing all the new stuff, all the new, like the biohacks and stuff are just old techniques or secrets that certain bodybuilders used. So it's kind of funny. A lot of them just evolve into a biohack, and now they're more mainstream. So that's good, because they aren't quite so secret anymore. Yeah.
So I did a brief, intro of you, but you should probably intro yourself and just kind of share. I mean, you have an amazing just fitness and background, multiple certifications. I mean, the list goes on, but yeah, just kind of fill people up, and then also like catch us up. Like, what have you been up to the last 2.5 years?
All right. Yeah. I started getting into exercise and fitness right after high school, and high school was just a little string bean, and just got hooked on. Like the most young guys, wanted to get big. And so I just started working out, and at the same time I started just wanted to get information about it all. I mean, this is in the early 90s, and you didn't have the internet and all this other stuff. You had magazines like Muscular Development and Muscle Media 2000. And then you just started looking through all those and finding good authors and getting books from there. Dr. Michael Colgan is an author who I got all his books. He was so far ahead of his times. The research that he cited is still, relevant today. And then the stuff he wrote about is just, he was a very great researcher. It's funny because you just commented on, I just did a podcast with the folks about distilled water, and I saw you commented on my post and said, yeah, Michael Colgan talked about this years ago. So I don't even know who Colgan is. So there you go. Old school news.
Yeah. He was big into water and air and everything about health. And he trained a lot of Olympians and high level athletes. And his big thing, with air and water and of course nutrients and sleep and, all the exercise and specifics about that.
Yeah.
So just kind of continued from there and bodybuilded for a while. And then I decided I didn't want to just stick with that. And there's so much I wanted to learn more, right? Bodybuilding is just kind of just stagnant, a lot of lateral movement or forward, backward, should I say, lateral and single plane. And it don't get a lot of movement. So I wanted to get more into movement. And I just started researching and exploring and finding new modalities. Acrobatics to Ido Portal kind of stuff, the kind of animal moves, stick mobility, foundation training, and a bunch of other stuff. I tried parkour, right? And so just like to do it all and move the body in several different ways, but still the ideas of nutrition and some of the stuff I think we're going to talk about is just foundational to humankind, and it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then here I am last 2.5 years, just, I was working as a police officer, now retired. And I was out there on the streets and still training every day. And so nothing really changed. And now I'm still training. Every day is a movement day, every day.
Yeah, I love that. And then, also just thinking about that, any new certifications or anything, and just for people that don't know, Steve kind of mentioned it, but like he's got such a breadth of knowledge when we were doing our podcast, like we were lifting kegs. And so you're very, you have that background, the bodybuilding background, but then you also have a huge background in breadth and functional movement and using the stick mobility and foundation, like you mentioned, the foundation, you went to Sayulita many times and just to train with certain movement specialists in Mexico. And so, you've really dived in the last couple of years with a lot of that functional movement. But anything new and any new certifications? Or
the newest one was the stick mobility, which I encountered a few years back. And then I just, I always used it here and there, but then I decided just to certify in it because they're local and they had a local training. And I decided, man, might as well go do it. I don't really I'm not getting like the training certificates or anything to mount on my wall. I'm just going and, meeting new people and learning new things. So that's pretty much why I go and what I do. Yeah.
On the stick mobility, to me, that looks stupid and fake. Is it any good?
I like it. Yeah. Cause it's what it looks like is a stick and you can move around just with a stick or without a stick, but it's the, irradiation of the muscles. You got to just tighten everything up and you're pushing while you're or you're trying to break the stick as you're doing like a deadlift or something, and it just gets your whole body tight and it really amps it all up. So there's a lot of cool there's the nuances to it that you go to the classes when you get it. That's the same thing with foundation training too. It looks easy, but there's the little nuances that not too much, but you need to get them in order to get the whole thing, to take advantage of the whole thing. So watching on the internet is cool and you can get a lot of it. And that's how I did at first with stick mobility and foundation training, but then went to the training itself and become certified. I was like, there's a couple, 2 or 3, 4 different things that are just like huge. So.
Yeah. The aha moments. Yeah. And I'm just kidding. Like, listen, it does look like, there's so many different methodologies and to mobility and massage therapy and just general fitness. And when I see stick mobility, I'm like, is that like at the height of the totem pole? Like, no. But then I think like you, I'm always open to new ideas. I'm being kind of just, I'm being a little off the cuff, but if anything works, I'm all about results. And if it works, it works. And I love it. And I'm always about like keeping that open mind and seeing new stuff. And the same thing with the foundation training. I agree. It looks very simple and like, why would I pay money to go do that? But people swear by it. Like they've fixed their back pain and chronic issues. But first responders, police officers, firefighters, people with these, like they were going to have surgery and like all they did was add foundation training and they're like, healed my back. Thanks a lot, man. So I can't, I can't knock it. I mean, the guy knows something, and it's working. So
yeah. I mean, a lot of these things are just a take on something other, like yoga, or you don't need all this stuff. I just, ultimately, I just think we need to move our bodies in as many varied directions and ways as possible. And the stick helps you. The cues from the stick help you. The foundation training, the cues from that help you. So that's pretty much what they, I guess their biggest benefit. It depends if people can just, if that's what helps them cue themselves to, to perform or to get to feel it, then that's great.
So will you use the stick mobility then pre-workouts, like prime your muscles, or is it more, how do you see it? Or do you use it more as a mobility tool to get into certain end ranges and to open up those, maybe corners and spots that you can't really get to that might be difficult? What are your thoughts?
I do it for both, but it's a good pre-workout. There's like a pre-workout routine that just kind of wakes everything up and gets you ready to now go hit whatever your modality may be: kettlebells, weightlifting, animal crawls, dancing, whatever, Yeah. So,
and then, and then I wanted to ask you, you mentioned irradiation, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, or how they do that, because, I'm thinking about that old study where they talk about irradiation and grip strength I don't know if it's in men, I'm assuming it's in men, but as we, they say, like, just having that grip strength, because that strength irradiates into all aspects of your body. And so if you have a really strong grip strength, then you can probably do tons of pull-ups. You can probably deadlift more because you can just hold the bar. But they basically said that, that irradiation factor from grip strength is just so powerful because it goes to every aspect of the body. So I'm curious, did you notice that, or is that how they use irradiation, or is it a little bit different?
No, they use it just like that. Just like, yeah. It could affect your whole, whole line of your body, depending what you're trying to work, right? If you're just trying to do a lateral move or the whole lateral side, you can wake it up using a stick, that is. And and then the whole grip strength, that's, been this like a standard for longevity, right? Or mortality, interestingly enough. So I mean, I guess if you're gripping, you're using those muscles, in which it's using the rest of your muscles. So that's the first start of it, right? You grip just like you would technically grip your feet as a tree trunk. If you're going to try to do some kind of leg movement, right? You try to plant yourself and then perform the movement. So yeah, get your feet, like your hands, I guess, nice and strong.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about, we wanted to just kind of, we're trying to keep these podcasts shorter, at least right now, until we get more feedback and see what people like. And so we're trying to keep it to 20 minutes or so, and more of these bite-sized kind of episodes, and just kind of dive into some stuff. And so today we wanted to actually talk about hey, the importance of working out, specifically outdoors. And so I'm just thinking, though, as we're just talking, I remember you, and I still remember this sticks in my head. See, this is the power you have, Steve, on me, is the purpose of hanging, though. And we're talking about grip strength and the purpose of hanging. And I remember you even telling me, we don't hang enough. We need to be squatting, and we need to be hanging more. And we hung a lot more from trees or whatever in, our ancestral times. But it's just so powerful for, of course, grip strength, but also for the extension of the shoulder, I think. And you would always tell me that, just hang, man, just go out and hang for a minute, 2 minutes on a bar. And so, this ties probably also well into training outdoors. But yeah, I'm before we maybe you can kind of talk about that. Are you still doing a lot of that kind of training, or just maybe you can share your philosophy on why we need to be hanging more?
Yeah, well, that came from Ido Portal, right? I mean, that's where I really discovered that. And though I've always I have rings, and I like hanging from rings, and not always with your body weight, right? You kind of use your legs maybe to help assist you, so you're sitting in a squat, but yet you can move all around with the ring as you're holding the rings. So I just still, I hang pretty much every day a little bit, something. I don't know. It almost feels like I've done it for so long that if I don't do it, it feels weird. I don't necessarily do a pull up all the time.
Yeah.
Right. But I will go hang. And
just static hangs.
Static hangs. But I do love the rings, hanging on the rings, depending with their knee, again, in a squat, standing further, but just letting your legs take some of the weight so you don't have it all on the rings. And that way you can kind of use your legs to move you around and make big circles and really open, you're really getting these shoulders to kind of go all around or whatnot. And I just find that fun. And then, I can just put on a podcast or just music or something, almost like a meditation for me when I do that. So yeah. And then you kind of get if you're down in a squat, you kind of get the squat at the same time. You're not putting your full weight on it, but yet you're getting in there, you're getting your ankles moving, you get your hips moving, your knees are moving, and all these different angles you don't encounter in everyday life, especially now. Just waking up, getting out of your bed, walking upstairs, getting your food, walking to your car, sitting down, driving to work, getting out of your car, sitting in the office, and then repeat, right? Those are your ranges of movement are pretty slacking or lacking. Yeah.
You know what? And maybe next week we'll do this. We should do a podcast on what you just said, like longevity and what are like the key movements or exercises that we should be thinking about as we age. And, I just turned 40, you're in your early 50s. But, and we never think like, oh, one day I'll be 70. Like we know, yeah, one day you will, but it's not, you're not going to plan for that. It's just going to happen. You're like, oh, I'm 70. And we just hope that we're in good shape and that all these things we've been doing up until then has gotten us there. Right. But I was just thinking because Peter Attia, who has a great podcast called The Drive, and he has, I think he does a lot of workouts where he calls it like the Centenarian Olympics. And he basically, I don't know how old he is. He's probably in his late 40s, or even early 50s. And he's talking about that concept. And I don't even know what his like 5 exercises that he's kind of come up with, but he says like, hey, we are going to lose muscle mass. That's a factor, and bone density and all these things are going to happen as we age. And they say when a 70-year-old, when their biggest detriment is if they fall, a lot of them just die because they cannot lift themselves up. And so he's designing like his own workout program, like deadlifts and maybe Turkish get-ups and things like that, so that he can promote, like that's what he's preparing for. He's like, hey, I mean, he trains hard too, but he's just saying like people need to be able to do these basic movements because when they are 70, they need to be able to get themselves up off the ground. They need to have good muscle mass. They need to have good bone density. So we should maybe explore that topic and come up with our own Centenarian Olympics in a sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I met a coworker I haven't seen in like 15 years just the other day. And as soon as I stepped out of the car, he's just like, you have not changed in 15 years. You do look exactly the same. Right. Well, I never had this, but
yeah,
back then, but
I just shaved my beard off. You have the beard now. That's great.
And so, my goal is, well, ever since I started lifting, my weight, I've never had a problem with weight. I've never been too fat or too thin since then. I wear it's about 10 pounds heavier when I was bodybuilding, but I've kept my weight constant, and I've kept pretty much, my weight and a lot of what I look like constant for 30 years. Mm-hmm. So my goal talking about longevity is I just turned 53 last week. I hope 30 years from now, 83, I look the same as I do now. It'd be great. Right.
Yeah.
So, but there's always just trying and seeing what happens. Life's kind of a big experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome stuff, dude. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about, I know, you and I are both big proponents of working out outside outdoors, but this is something that I know you wanted to bring up. So what's on your mind with the importance and why is this this is on the forefront of your mind? Like, hey, we need to talk about this more. Not enough people are getting this and maybe understanding it. So yeah.
Yeah. I just, I used to train in the gym a lot. And then I switched, and then I started reading more about, we are lacking in there, getting our sun and how powerful the sunlight, how powerful it is for us. And so I just, started working out outside, and everything about it is just rejuvenating. I don't even like working out indoors really as much. Sometimes, well, you can have it outside. You can have people with you, of course. You can have it at a place, any place, you can park, a house or whatever. And so just getting outdoors and you're just knocking a bunch of things off. I think that everybody needs sun, right? If you can go out barefoot on the grass, you're getting grounding, which we need that connection to the earth. You're breathing better air. The indoor air quality is generally much worse than just the outdoor air. We know the outdoor air is not even that great, but that's going to be helpful. So I think those are the 3 big things: sun, being grounding, and then the air outdoors. And then it depends where you do it. I like to go to the beach once every week or every 2 weeks. I live about an hour from the beach. And then you get there, you're getting all that. And then you're getting in the cold water, which is like cold therapy. Well, I'm in Northern California. Cold water is cold therapy. And also the ions from just the beach, the waves hitting the beach and just releasing the ions. And so you were breathing that in.
Yeah.
So that adds another factor. But if you go into a place that has trees, then you're breathing in the biome of the trees, and that is the wood essential oils basically are antibacterial and antifungal. So, and they lift your mood. They just get you in a better mood too. So it just all comes together. And why ignore that and go a place when you could do all that outside? Yeah, it's tough to set up all your racks, your benches and stuff, but kettlebells, if you want to lift weights, kettlebells are great, and you can take them along with you. Your body weight is always with you, available, and you can twerk that to any which way to make it tough, rather than just a single. People think of push-ups or something. Yeah, there's push-ups, and then there's where do you place your hands? When you're going to do different push-ups, and it just makes everything tougher and fun. So
yeah,
and then of course stick mobility. There's another, you can take that outside. And so, so my backyard just has a deck, and then I have rings under it and a climbing rope, and then all my stuff's under there. But I go out in the sun and I lift. I'm usually barefoot on, not always on the grass because the grass is dead, but at least on the concrete. You still get grounding there. But just being barefoot. There's another thing. We're in shoes way too much, right? I think it's destroyed our feet. And we have all kinds of issues because of standard shoes. There's better shoes that are better now that are coming out, I think, the minimalist shoes. But barefoot is, it toughens up your feet, and then also it just allows them to work like they're supposed to, and helps, maybe even spread those toes and become much more help you move better once you have better feet, because it's your foundation, and that affects everything on up: feet, ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, spine, neck. So
I love that. Yeah, I mean, and then just thinking. By the way, real quick, what shoes are you wearing these days? I'm wearing the Zeros.
Okay, I'm wearing limbs. I've worn limbs for years. I got a few different pairs of limbs. Every time they go on sale, I get a new pair of black, because that's what my workout shoe. I keep the new ones for walking around looking nice, and then I just kind of rotate them.
Okay.
I don't know. Zero. I mean, I've tried other ones and they're fine. I guess they're fine, but the limbs are just, there's no reason for me to change, and they last a long time. The tread lasts a long time, and I'm not affiliated with limbs or anything, but I just love the shoes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. I love some of the things you said. Sun, I am in total alliance with you. I used to have gym memberships, and I don't anymore. And I there's part of the gym stuff that I love, but what helps me too is I just go in my backyard. I'm not commuting anywhere. I'm not doing anything. And I love the sun, and I'm with you. So I'm out there, I'm making sure I'm getting, most of us are vitamin D deficient. We saw that with the pandemic. People that had low vitamin D levels suffered the most. They had cytokine storms. They didn't recover as well. People that had high vitamin D, they just did better. We saw that. And so I make it a point, 20 minutes every day at least, to get sun. And I try to tell my clients that too. And I'm like, and people are going, well, yeah, I go outside. I'm like, do you take your shirt off? And they're like, no. I'm like, take your shirt off, because we're clothed most of the time. Like you're not getting sun. And I even tell my little two boys, they're 8 and 5. And I'm like, hey, how about you? Let's get that 20 minutes of vitamin D. And then after that, put the shirt back on. But I'm with you there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first thing I do when I wake up, I'll drink a big glass of water. I'll take some biosalts, and then I'll go outside just in my shorts, and just hopefully I'm trying to get up closer to sunrise, but it's always a little later. But I'll go out, and the first thing I do is I'll just look at the sun, get the sun on me and actually look at it, as long as it's not too high. I've been doing that for a while. I just didn't go out there and just look at the sun once. And so I do that every morning, pretty much, I'd say 95% of the time.
Yeah.
And get the sun, right? And then the morning sun helps especially when you let your body expose to it, it helps you then handle the UVA intense rays of the afternoon. It's like a prep, right? And so it's very important to get some of that morning sun. I mean, I always trip like with people who go, on vacation, right? They're just always clothed here at home, wherever home is. They go to the beach in Mexico and they go ahead and they party all late until the morning, and then they sleep until about 11. Then about noon, they're hitting the beach, and then they're going right at high sun, and they never prep their body, and they don't prep their body that day, but they haven't prepped their body in life. And so, yeah, then they have issues, and they got to slide all the sunscreen on, and they can't, then they always get burned. And I don't do that anymore. I don't use sunscreen. I don't do any of that. I've gone to the Caribbean, and no shirt, no sunscreen, no nothing. And that's just what I do. And I can hang out all day pretty much. I might get red a little bit after a while, of course, but
yeah,
it's just, that's just a very helpful thing that people need to get down or understand, should I say, is they need to understand that you have to go out in the morning to be able to handle the midday. And then at night, it could also, you get a lot of the same morning sun at night, and it helps get the body into that state. The body understands the rhythm and get ready for rest time, right?
Yep. Yeah. So powerful. You know what? We'll have to even do an episode on just morning routines and supplements. I'd love to hear what you're doing nowadays too. I agree. It's funny. This year, I kind of noticed that I got a good base right early. Once the sun was coming out regularly here in Idaho, I was out right away, shirt off. I mean, actually, I'll be honest. Even when it's not super sunny, I take the shirt off because I want to get as much sun as I possibly can, even in the winter, even though it's colder. And so it's really interesting this year. I never used sunscreen, and I never got burnt because I guess I mean, like you said, I got maybe a little red a couple of times. The only time I do use sunscreen is just on my face because that gets a little bit more burnt than other parts and the back of my neck. But as far as my body is super tan, and I haven't used sunscreen. I don't use sunscreen at all, like you said, other than like a little bit on the face and neck. That's it. And so it's like I've just built it up. It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, it just happens. It's like it's like anything. You're trying to deadlift a heavy weight. You can't go and deadlift the heaviest weight. You're trying to get yourself used to the sun. You got to just slowly ease into it, right? If it's taking your shirt off, depending where you live, taking your shirt off, maybe after 5 minutes, that's enough. That's enough for that day. And then, over time you're going up, and then, it's a year thing. It's years, you can't just do it. It's not just going to happen in 1 month or 1 week or a day or anything. It takes a while, but it's like lifting. It's just setting a habit and doing it and understanding that it's just doing you tremendous benefit, and it's free.
It's free. The other big thing too that I want to hit on that you brought up about just working out outdoors is, the last 2 years, people got crushed from the pandemic, and they lost. I remember people were moody. People weren't able to go to their gyms because they weren't allowed to. And I didn't miss a day of lifting. I would tell people, I'd take photos of me and my X3 bar. Now, anybody that's seen me, I've interviewed Dr. John Jaquish, the founder of the X3 bar. But like you said, you don't even need that. Get some kettlebells. Get a jump rope. The jump rope is like the ultimate biohack travel workout. I mean, bring that anywhere you go. Get a jump rope, have some kettlebells, find a pull-up bar. You're good. You're good, man. And
bring a friend. Sometimes you need friends. I understand. I like going. The one thing about the gym is just you do have the energy. I think in a commercial gym a lot of times.
Yeah.
And that that could kind of drive you, and that I get is helpful. But yeah, outdoors is it's very meditative. The working out or moving, not just working out, is very meditative and almost spiritual for me. I just enjoy it so much where I can I feel like one. So
it's funny too. I remember the negative ions that you mentioned. I remember Ben Greenfield talking about this a long time ago, that there was a study showing that people actually lifted heavier. They were stronger when they lifted outside versus inside, like in a artificial environment, basically, right? Think about that. And so it's there's probably so many mechanisms, but is it the light? You know, is it the, like, you know, is it the grounding, like the ions, like you're getting charged by being connected to the earth and the ground and the sun. There's that, you know, yeah, you're a battery. Our bodies are batteries, and you're getting charged. So there's some electron transfer there. And then you mentioned the air, the ions, and so it's really interesting too. That I can't remember what that study was, but it showed that, yeah, people lifted stronger. I don't know how much more, but they lifted strong, and I believe it. I wouldn't be surprised, you know.
Yeah, yeah. You know, interesting about air, and I only think of Dr. Michael Colgan again. Back in the '90s, he used to live in south of LA, and he was in LA. Then he moved south of LA because back in the '80s, the air quality in the LA area was so bad. And he wrote about it, and he moved down to just north of San Diego, and then he said, you know what, the air quality was getting bad there. He closed up shop and he moved to Nova Scotia, Canada. And he was just saying, you know, the air quality back then was so bad, and say someplace like LA, and he wrote about how he used to, like, say, drive down a busy street in LA, cars all over, and then you'd have the joggers jogging along the street, and it's like you're jogging, your VO2 max is up, and all you're doing is breathing in more pollutants from cars at a higher rate, and so it might be offsetting your exercise to the negative just by jogging next to a roadway, or, you know, biking next to a roadway all the time. While you think you're going out and doing some good, you know, you might be just taking, because we are such a toxin filled world, that you might be just taking a mega dose of toxins in, which you are. So getting out into the beach, right? Or if you can't, the trees, they're a natural, you know, they filter the air naturally. They breathe out, they give you the essential oil they have, and everything on the biome they have. And so you don't have those issues as much. I mean, we have bad air everywhere, but you got to try to do your part to try to help your body and just be cognizant of it, right?
Yeah. One thing I want to just mention about what you just said about the air and the trees, and I think it's so cool that you said that, and we didn't even talk about this before, but one of my good friends who's a amazing health coach, he's got over 20 years. He's a master instructor under Paul Chek. I mean, he knows his stuff. Yeah, this guy knows his stuff. He's so intuitive. And we were talking early on in the pandemic, and he was saying, you know, of course, we're talking about the whole mask issue and stuff. And he was saying, Joel, not only is it such a bad problem for people wearing masks for all the other reasons we know, the plastics now that they're talking about, the microplastics that people are breathing in, the fact some people bring up the whole CO2 thing. I don't know if I'm sold on that. But then the fact, the isolation and everything, you just can't see people's face. But he said, Joel, in the trees, and he said the exact same thing, in the trees, there's these anthocyanins. They're the polyphenols. They're the essential oils in the trees and everything. They're all around us in the air. We're missing that. We need that biome. We need to be getting that, right? We need each other's biome. And you're missing that when you're putting on a mask. And so I thought it was so cool that you just brought up that same point. So yeah,
the biome, right? And then the dirt itself, right? So if you're doing crawls in the dirt, or you know, or something, or even on the grass that has dirt patches, you get your feet in it, your hands in it, and then your hands and feet get dirty like we were kids. I mean, well, when I was a kid, we're out there digging in the mud and going in and eating your cheese, and you're rolling it up and your cheese becomes black, yet you're eating it. So it's just filled with all the dirt and biome that brought, right? And then kids were generally healthier back. I grew up in the 70s. So it's still the same thing now. And in fact, I was listening to Ben Greenfield years ago, and he's talking about a buddy of his who travels, and every time he goes someplace, he will actually find a spot and just, like, we'll call it as clean as he can think it is, dirt, and he'll stick his finger in there and he'll stick it in his mouth. And so I started doing that. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds cool, because you get that biome from those areas, right? Yeah. And so that's just going to help your gut biome and everything. We are just walking plants. We're part of the earth. We just can move, but we need everything it supplies. And that is, you know, again, the biome going inside of us helps us. We need it. So yeah, let's get it.
Let's get it, baby. Okay. Awesome stuff, man. I'm looking at the time, and I knew this was going to happen with you. we're at like 35 minutes and we wanted to keep it to like 20, but I killed some time in the beginning, kind of doing an intro and, you know, catching people up to speed about you. And so that's okay. This one's a little bit longer, but, probably should wrap it up. Any closing thoughts or anything, you want to end with, or?
Well, you know, since we're just talking about moving outside, just, you know, I don't know anybody, if you haven't done it, or if you're not, it's not a practice, go do it. Go to your local middle school. Middle school seems to have the good stuff, like the bars and stuff. High schools don't have the bars, maybe a pull-up bar. And elementary schools, it could be good. Elementary schools have obviously the monkey bars and stuff, and they could be good. But middle schools seem to have the dip bars and everything. So get outside and maybe go to a school and you have places to sprint, and you have a grass to crawl on, and you have bars to play on. So there's a good start.
Yeah, I love that. The only thing I want to say to you is, can we give anybody something tangible? Because I'm thinking if anybody's listening to this and they're like an avid gym goer or something, you know, and they're like, yeah, Steve, that sounds great, but like I need my weights and I need to be doing something. I need to be, you know, give me a program, give me a plan. Like, what would you say? I mean, I don't know. Is there anything like if Steve Vierra shows up at the middle school, like what's Steve Vierra doing?
Okay. You know, I think the best, real good plan and simple plan for people is do some animal movements. So animal crawls, and they could be just the basics. If you don't know too many, you know, just the regular bear crawl and crab crawls and stuff like that. And maybe some rolls, and then take some couple kettlebells or something heavy and carry it. So get your crawls in and heavy carries. And I think you're going to cover a lot of what you need for life.
Yeah. You know, and the last thing too is, you know, look at guys like Herschel Walker, right? That guy never even touched a weight. All he did was just like thousands of push-ups every day. And he was huge, right?
That's what they say. I don't know. Right? We weren't there, but yeah. Yeah. But that's fine. Right. I think the body weight stuff is great. I mean, if you like it, or if you haven't tried it, try it and go barefoot. Try to go barefoot.
And go barefoot. I love it. Yeah, we'll end with that and go barefoot. Awesome, man. Good to have you. I know we're going to make this a regular thing, and we're just going to be sharing these topics, and it's going to be fun. I already know I'm enjoying this, and we went way longer, so that's how much I enjoyed it. So I know other people are going to enjoy it too. So thanks, man. I'm glad we could connect, and I'll see you next week.
All right.